Are you a CEO looking to scale your company faster and easier? Check out Thrive Roundtable. Thrive combines a moderated peer group mastermind, expert one-on-one coaching, access to proven growth tools, and a 24/7 support community. Created by Inc. award-winning CEO and certified scaling-up business coach Bruce Eckfeldt, Thrive will help you grow your business more quickly and with less drama. For details on the program, visit eckfeldt.com/thrive. That's eckfeldt.com/thrive.
Hey everyone, Bruce Eckfeldt here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Make sure that you subscribe and turn on notifications so we can let you know when the next video is posted. You can also check us out at eckfeldt.com for more great content. With that, let's go check out the video.
You're listening to Thinking Outside the Bud, where we speak with entrepreneurs, investors, thought leaders, researchers, advocates, and policymakers who are finding new and exciting ways for cannabis to positively impact business, society, and culture. And now, here is your host, business coach, Bruce Eckfeldt.
Welcome everyone, this is Thinking Outside the Bud. I'm Bruce Eckfeldt, I'm your host. And our guest today is Dean Harris, who is co-founder and CMO of Tab Brands. And we're going to talk a little bit about what they're doing in the cannabis space. We're going to hear about his background in advertising and learn a little bit what they're doing with THCA and some of the other products. As always, it's always fun to kind of have new and different people on here. Dean, welcome to the program. It's really a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Bruce. I appreciate your having me on.
Yeah. So I always like to start with just kind of hearing people's backgrounds. What's your story? I know that you were in advertising before. Connect the dots for us. Tell us how you got from sort of the advertising world to cannabis.
Sure. Well, this works for me because I am a storytelling CMO.
Excellent.
But I'm actually a third-generation marketer, which is interesting because marketing's probably only had 4 generations since it was formalized in the late 1800s. My grandfather started an advertising agency in Manhattan in 1922. My father ran a direct marketing agency, and I've been in marketing and advertising for my entire career. So after business school, I started working on packaged goods, fairly traditional route, did detergent, disposable diapers, and then started an advertising agency in Manhattan, did that for a period of time. And then in the late 90s, got recruited to be part of the whole internet explosion revolution. So I was lucky enough to be at a few brands that started small and ended big.
Yeah.
They all went public, actually. So and they were in varying categories. I did Hot Jobs, I did Vonage, the phone company, and I did Kayak, the travel search site.
Yeah.
So my background has been branding. I really enjoy taking large categories and making a big impact. And I hope to do the same thing in the cannabis space.
So when did cannabis first come up for you? I mean, it's a unique sector. So it's
a circuitous story. I mean, after years of no physical activity, I started working out with a personal trainer, and he had invented this product that was geared to the protein supplement market. It was basically a better way to get protein supplements. And it was and is an effervescent tablet. So after helping him with that product and helping him secure a patent, we discovered that what we really had was not a way of delivering protein better, but a way of delivering a variety of things better. And cannabis just jumped out at us. So our product, which is called Tab Relief, is an effervescent cannabis tablet. And essentially, it's a very small tablet. It's about the size of a Benadryl. Okay. And you can place it in any liquid, hot or cold, and it takes on the flavor characteristics of that liquid. Okay. Or we have flavors. But it's a really interesting way of delivering protein. And then beyond that, we decided that after looking at the market, that within the context of our team and our advisors and the market, we wanted to become a serious professional medical brand. We thought that the medical cannabis space had huge opportunities, and in fact also aligned with the goals of a lot of our investors and advisors. So that's what we're doing. We're building a serious professional medical cannabis brand with an emphasis on brand.
Excellent. And so you're focusing on the medical side. How do you approach the kind of the positioning and the strategy around the marketing?
That's what I've done for my entire career. Yeah. So one of the reasons to me this represents such a great opportunity is that when you look at the medical cannabis space, it's a $7 billion category with essentially no brands.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some, but most cannabis brands are dual use, both for medical and for recreational. And it's our contention that owning the narrative for medical cannabis is possible, and building a real solid brand in the space is the huge opportunity. So that's exactly what we're doing.
So, and I think that's it's interesting because I think a lot of the struggles, certainly, when I work with kind of earlier stage businesses and they're in this kind of growth mode, it's easy to get caught into the kind of the pattern of chasing money. Anything that's shiny that might have revenue associated with it, you go after. I mean, it sounds like you've made a really kind of firm, hard decision to say, look, we're just going to focus on medical. We're not going to focus on the recreational side. Was that hard?
It wasn't hard at all, because as a marketer and a brander, it's important to take a position and take something that present a brand or a product in a way that people can understand, with benefits that are clear and understandable. And our sense is that if somebody is serious about using medical cannabis, they'd like a brand that speaks to their needs, not one that says, oh, gee, you can get really high. Oh, and by the way, you can use it for medical purposes as well.
Yeah.
So, and the more and more I've learned about the medical cannabis space, it feels great to be able to do a lot of good. I mean, medical cannabis is, as you know, is used for any variety of conditions, diseases, and so forth. And the more and more folks you talk to in the space, everybody has a story where they've tried other things, typically prescribed medications, doesn't work for one reason or another, and then they try medical cannabis. Yeah. So we feel like we have an enormous market opportunity.
Yeah. It's really impressive, I think, how much you focus, because I think it's not easy. And I think a lot of companies kind of get caught in or struggle with that decision, with deciding on which segment of the market they're going to go after.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, Bruce, I mean, brands that have made it tend to focus on one or two true, defensible, important benefits.
Yeah.
I mean, and think of pretty much any product category. Even though products can deliver a variety of benefits, they tend to get remembered and used if they focus on one. Again, this is such a gigantic space. I mean, for example, medical cannabis is about the same size space as disposable diapers. I mean, not something I've worried about for a while, although I did do a disposable diaper brand back in the day. But anyway, think about a disposable diaper brand with absolutely no position. I mean, and you're talking about Loves and Pampers and Huggies, and they all have staked out positions in the marketplace.
Yeah.
So as a marketer and a brander by training, it seems quite logical.
Yeah, I always think when I think of branding and positioning, I always think of the taste great, less filling. It's like the whole you're really taking the position.
They try to straddle things.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, here's another way that you might want to look at a brand. I know that you are in the New York area. So take a place like Grand Central Station, which has got roughly 700,000 people pass through every day.
Yeah.
More people than the state of Wyoming.
Yeah.
If you're in Grand Central Station and you're on one side of the station, you can look across the station and see somebody that on the other side. There could be 5,000 people in in that room, but you notice that one person, and that is similar to branding. I mean, it's that sort of familiarity, and beyond that sort of understanding that you have not only familiarity, but a visceral reason to like or understand that person.
Yeah.
So branding is I think crucial in this space, and we're happy to be doing it.
Yeah. So if I'm a earlier stage entrepreneur, I have a product or a service in this cannabis space, and I'm trying to figure this out. I mean, what's the process, or what advice would you give to folks thinking about branding? Because I think this is probably one of the bigger issues in the cannabis space right now is really zeroing in.
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm approaching this as I have every brand. My training, as I said, was in packaged goods. Originally was on Procter & Gamble. So the first thing I did is I wrote a communication strategy, a Procter & Gamble style communication strategy that would mimic the strategies that Procter writes for Tide or for Pampers or any of their large products. Yep. And then we tested out that product on consumers. So we have to be very careful about what we stand for, what we don't stand for, what we want to emphasize, what our tonality is, how the manner in which we want to describe our brand.
Yeah.
So I would recommend that for anybody in the space. It's only going to make the brand look bigger and more important, and it's going to make the brand be more understandable, both with the consumer audience and a business partnership audience.
Yeah. Talk to me about the testing part of it, because I think that's, I come out of the sort of the lean agile space, and, testing is huge, and getting customer feedback and validation. Practically, how did you go about testing this? It's an interesting market.
One of the things that we've done that I think is perhaps unusual for the space is that we have conducted consumer focus groups. So our first market for our product, which is called Tab Relief, is going to be California. So we did consumer focus groups in two of the major markets in California, in Los Angeles and San Francisco, among consumers that bought and used cannabis regularly. These were both recreational users and medicinal users. And we tried to get a sense of how they perceived our product, how they perceived the marketplace. We came to them with some preliminary package ideas. And this is the sort of thing that a larger, more sophisticated company would use. I'm not certain as to whether we were the first cannabis company ever to hold focus groups, but we certainly were the first in these facilities.
Yeah.
And the results were enlightening.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they were entirely predictive, but they were clearly informative.
Yeah.
And it was encouraging because I felt like we were really onto something. Even folks that used cannabis primarily for recreational means, and in many cases every day, had many occasions where they would want to use cannabis for health and wellness conditions, for, in effect, medical-like conditions.
Yep.
So my argument would be if somebody comes home after work and they use cannabis to eliminate stress or because they've got anxiety, is that a recreational reason or a medicinal reason?
Yeah.
I mean, I would argue it's just as medicinal as recreational.
Yeah, I agree. How have you seen on the medical side, particularly the whole relationship with doctors and the dispensaries and the prescribing process? Like, how are you kind of navigating this kind of industry as it sorts out how products get into hands of patients, essentially,
Sure.
and the relationship with doctors? Because I think that's still, for me, it's still kind of unclear, and it seems like it's a very dynamic situation.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually a great question. But I think we're approaching it a little bit differently than some folks. We are going to have distribution among dispensaries. It's troubling to me that there are some folks in dispensaries that are in effect offering medical opinions or medical advice without a medical background.
Yeah.
So part of our strategy is to go to what we're calling institutional clients or institutional customers. And these are places where cannabis users can be aggregated. There typically is some form of medical supervision, and we then can sell through the institution rather than sell to consumers on an individual basis. So I'll give you some examples.
Yeah, what's an example?
Sure. Here are three that I think are interesting. We are targeting assisted living centers. So we're targeting seniors, 65 plus. And in senior centers, typically, the patients or the residents have issues with things like pain, inflammation, and many cases, appetite issues.
Yeah.
And medical cannabis helps all of those things.
Yeah.
And then many of these assisted living facilities also have memory care units. And of course, it's been shown that cannabis can aid with Alzheimer's and other memory conditions.
Yeah.
So it seems logical to us to get buy-in from the senior center, offer the senior center a chance to dispense our product to their patients that have been medically approved, and then ship products to 40 people at a time rather than have to influence them on a one-by-one basis.
Yeah.
This argument, I think, can be made additionally for other sorts of institutions. And one of them I think is fascinating. That would be for the issues of pain. So, as you know, many people consider cannabis to be an excellent alternative to opioids. And opioids clearly are useful, I think, in the early parts after operations of
post-surgical,
But after the first 5 days, 7 days, is it really necessary? And do consumers really, really want an opioid prescription as a way to mitigate their pain, a way to relieve their pain? And in fact, in several states, including New York, Pennsylvania, and to a certain extent, Illinois, doctors are now allowed to prescribe medical cannabis instead of opioids. So we see that as a humongous opportunity. And being able to connect to doctors, to cannabis-friendly healthcare professionals, to people that are parts of opioid support groups, even to folks that have had the same kinds of operations, is a way that we can reach a very, very targeted and motivated audience. So we're really looking at our distribution twofold, both individually through dispensaries, but also through what I'm calling an institutional approach.
And I think that's smart. I mean, I think a lot of people forget or fail to think through their channel strategy and, based on their product, based on their positioning, what is the best way to actually reach your end customer, reach your client, and actually deliver product and service through. I'm curious how it kind of sounds like that the nature of the product has helped guide guide you on some of these things? Because the nature that it's easy to apply.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
I mean, our active ingredient is something called THCA.
Yeah.
And interestingly, THCA is non-psychotropic.
Okay.
So we're particularly appropriate for a whole series of audiences that would like the health and wellness benefits of cannabis without the high. And certainly that would include an older demographic, 65 plus, a younger demographic, 21 years of age and less. I mean, if your kid has got childhood epilepsy,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You'd love to be able to treat your kid with cannabis, but you certainly don't want your 7-year-old to get high.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, in the opiate example I gave you, the fact that we're non-psychotropic and non-addictive without side effects offers many positive advantages for that segment. So THCA is something where we really want to be leaders, thought leaders. We'd like to own the narrative in THCA, and we think that it's a non-understood cannabinoid.
Yeah, and I think the tablet form, the fact that you can take on different flavors or you can kind of mask flavors and stuff is an interesting one too, because I think we're coming out of this culture of kind of the pot culture and, people thinking about weed. And as you move to more of kind of a medical chemical approach to it, that the world opens up. I mean, I think the wellness space is, a huge one where, we're not talking about, we're talking about what are the effects, physical, psychological, that you want to have on people, and no longer the actual plant, thinking about the plant material itself. And it just kind of opens the doors. And I think people really getting innovative around how the products they come up with, the delivery mechanisms. Talk to me a little bit more about the branding, because I think that, there's kind of the product design, which is, how it's used and the format and the physical form and things like that. Talk to me about some of the packaging and things like how do you tell the story, or how do you tie the physical product into a narrative?
We'd like our story to be clean and simple to understand. Mm-hmm. So all of our communications are going to reflect that. And of course, packaging does that as well. But our website, our investor materials, our partnership materials all reflect an attempt to be very clear, precise, and consistent. And I think that if one does that, it makes a brand grow faster and also makes a brand look larger than it is. But I would like to just bring up one thing that you mentioned before. I mean, I think what's truly interesting about medical cannabis, and actually about cannabis in general, it is truly a global kind of product.
Yeah.
And of course, in the United States, one has to manage on a state-by-state basis. We're also pursuing a strategy. We're trying to pursue a partnership strategy with a Canadian firm. We're actually in talks with a number of very large publicly held Canadian cannabis companies. And we think Canada represents a great opportunity, not because you can just produce in one place and then ship to every province, but I think almost more importantly, because Canada is going to be a great export center. Yeah. So the notion of being able to produce in one place and then send your product all over the world is incredible. I mean, and the need for medical cannabis doesn't stop at a state or at a national border.
Yeah.
A mother in Germany that's got a kid with child epilepsy is going to have the same sort of need for a product as a mother in California. And because of the way communications work these days, the mother in Germany will actually be able to read about our product.
Yeah.
And will understand that we represent a treatment possibility that they may be unaware of.
Yeah, and it's this kind of this modern age of being able to create demand on a global basis. For products, is people have information, people can search for it, people can find out. And then how do you deliver is the question.
Well, that's true. Well, I mean, in our case, we certainly want to be able to deliver in the United States, but we are going to have to do it state by state based on current laws.
Yeah.
But we think that we can really, really expand our global reach if we use Canada as a production center and as a place from which we can export.
Yeah, exactly. I know the other one too. I spoke to some folks down in Australia, and they sort of similar process. They're actually pretty squarely focused on the medical side of it. Australia has a fairly big industry for opioid production on a global basis. So they have actually the supply chain and the legal chains and stuff set up for doing opioids internationally. And they're now mirroring that and doing a cannabis-based one. It's just they're taking a little while because of the federal legislation there. But, it's interesting because I think that really is the sort of the next or the bigger market is the global market. And as these countries start to, adopt cannabis as a medical tool, it opens it up. And I think at some level, the U.S. companies are unfortunately quite hamstrung because of the federal legislation and having to do things state by state and not being able to participate on the international market quite so much. So we'll see what happens. Do you have any sense? I was kind of curious to get people's take on what they've seen in terms of the state-by-state kind of adoption, the federal legislation. When you do your strategic planning and you're kind of mapping, what's your sense in terms of when this stuff might work at a federal level?
Yeah, we really don't know, but it's encouraging to see things like the Quinnipiac voter poll. And the most recent Quinnipiac voter poll showed that 93% of all U.S. voters believe that medical cannabis should be legalized.
Yeah.
I mean, getting 93% of U.S. voters to agree on anything is a miracle.
Exactly.
But we find that very, very encouraging. So I think that cannabis is going to become only more legal on a state-by-state basis and hopefully on a federal basis. And of course, when it does, it makes us, I think, a more interesting and a more valuable company.
Yeah.
In the interim, we can perfect our brand, we can perfect our product, our marketing techniques. And it's sort of odd to say that we can test in California because California does represent 1/8 of the population of the country.
Yeah.
But that is where we're going to start. Yeah. And we think that the learnings that we get from California will be incredibly useful as we roll out throughout the country.
I think one of the really fascinating aspects of this market, of the cannabis space right now, is because you have this federal legislation issue, legality issue, the big players, the pharmaceutical companies, people like that are not, kind of don't get involved because they can't sort of taint their other businesses.
Yes,
so it creates this vacuum.
Yet.
Well, it creates a vacuum,
yet, But we're an opioid company, opioid manufacturing company.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest ones is about 10 miles south of where I'm sitting. And they want to be responsible in terms of dispensing their product.
Yeah.
I would think that they might want to look at medical cannabis sort of as phase 2.
Yeah.
In other words, phase 1 is provide opioids for acute pain. And phase 2 is provide non-addictive cannabis as an alternative.
Yeah.
So I don't think they have to degrade their core offering.
Yeah.
I think they just have to be true to what they're saying in the public relations arena, that opioids should be prescribed responsibly.
Yeah.
And I believe they should be. And of course, I mentioned New York and California and Illinois. Apparently in the state of Oregon, doctors are not going to be able to prescribe opioids at all in 2019 to Medicaid patients.
Yeah.
And in the UK now, doctors are going to prescribe opioids, prescribe cannabis instead of opioids. So since Medicaid is a federally funded program, and since the government of England has national health care, I guess it's just a matter of time before the state pays for cannabis, which currently it's not doing.
Yeah. Do you sense that, is this a bit of a game right now in terms of, everyone's trying to do a little bit of a land grab, kind of carve out their niche, grow their business as big as possible. Once federal legislation gets passed, then Big Pharma is going to come in and just do a big roll up on all these things? Is that kind of the...
I don't know. I do think there's going to be a lot of acquisition in the space.
Yeah.
And I think that interesting, viable, useful brands are going to be targets. So we consider that to be a possibility in our future.
Yeah.
But right now, we have to continue to build a great product with a great team and do interesting stuff. And I think that will give us many more options in the years to come.
In terms of where are you going with the product? Where do you see your next kind of iterations of the product going? What are some of the things that you're looking at developing?
Sure. Well, interestingly, we have 2 PhDs in medicinal chemistry that are working on this product simultaneously. One of them is in California, and he's an expert, probably one of the world's leading experts on THCA. And then separately, we have a PhD in Florida working on the product. And she's much more of an expert on food and nutraceuticals. She actually has a background in food science. She worked for Kraft for a couple of years. So our delivery system could be used to deliver anything. We are working on a protein product currently, but in theory, we could deliver more than in theory. In practice, we could deliver a THC tablet, or we could deliver a CBD tablet. As a marketer and a brander, I would be adverse to doing that under our name.
Yeah.
Just because I want our product, Tab Relief, to stand for non-psychotropic THCA.
Yeah.
And I think if we were to have a variety of offerings, if we had THC, if we had CBD, if we had THCA, I think it would be incredibly confusing for consumers. So I'd like to own the THC narrative. That being said, we've already had interest from other companies to license our technology to deliver something other than THCA. And I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
We've also had inquiries from folks to deliver other medications. For example, we've had inquiries to deliver AIDS medication.
Yeah.
And if we can provide a useful, interesting, convenient, portable way to deliver medication, I think that only enhances the value of our overall brand and our company.
Yeah. But I like the keeping the brand and the positioning for your market clean and clear, so that you're not, because it's easy to just start coming out with all these different products. And now, as a consumer, I'm like, well, what do I go to you for? And who are you serving me as a segment? Are you?
Yeah, we want people to come to us for an effervescent tablet and non-psychotropic THCA.
Yeah. Excellent. Dean, this has been a pleasure. If people want to find out more about you, about the product, what's the best way to do that?
Sure. So my email is dean@tabbrands.com, and our website is tabbrands.com.
Awesome.
So we have a lot of information about what we're doing, the science behind what we're doing, our team, our backgrounds, our progress, and we'd be happy if people took a look, because again, we're a relatively early stage company. Yeah. And we'd love to talk to other folks that are in the space.
Awesome. And I'll make sure that the email address and the link to the website is on the show notes here so people can click through. Dean, thank you again. This has been a pleasure. I've really enjoyed it.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You've been listening to Thinking Outside the Bud with business coach Bruce Eckfeldt. To find a full list of podcast episodes, download the tools and worksheets, and access other great content, visit the website at thinkingoutsidethebud.com. And don't forget to sign up for the free newsletter at thinkingoutsidethebud.com/newsletter.